Well, welcome back, gang. It's Dr. Conrad again. I have today a special guest with us, Dr. Rick Burslem. In fact, we graduated together at the University of Kentucky in educational. You did educational leadership, right? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
okay? So we
Yep.
did educational leadership together. Well, tell you a little bit from my lens. Dr. Burslem has been great mentor, great friend. He's encouraged me deeply about my family, my marriage, my children, my work, all the things that I've done. And so I'm looking forward to our interview today. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to what you guys are going to learn and the wisdom. You'll see the wisdom that I've learned from him. And I'm looking forward to you guys learning from very similar in similar ways. This man is full of wisdom, full of the Spirit, full of God's blessing on his life. And so we're going to go on a great journey today in our conversation. And I hope you guys are blessed today. So, Dr. Burslem, thank you for being with us today. I appreciate you.
It's always a pleasure, Dr. Conrad. Come on,
All
the
right.
good doctor.
Yes, sir. Well, tell us a little bit about you. You know, you've got a world of education, and you're still in the nonprofit world. But tell us a little bit about you, so that the listening audience can know who you are, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Okay, I guess, and if I pronounce this incorrect, somebody can tell me. I'm an indefatigable learner.
Oh,
All I want to do is continue to learn and help others grow and process.
mhm.
And to me, the joy that I have, certainly in my educational background, uh, I found that as my first love. And
Mhm.
then whether it was in the scriptures and in preaching, teaching, or in teaching in a secular school, teaching kids with excellence and giving them a model of hope that they could do more. To me, it's all about, just causing growth in them mentally, spiritually, in every which way. And then investing.
Yeah.
I guess I look at there's two twin pillars for, um, you invest hopefully in their minds and their hearts and souls, and then there's growth, and they can attribute that to, wow, that teacher, that B man, he be different.
Hmm. Yeah. So when you say growth, what is it about? Um, when I think of education, one thing I think about what our current culture is doing, it's saying, let's dump into kids. But when I think about education and I think about some of the etymology, the roots of it, I've come to the conclusions that it's more so about drawing out what is inside of a person. There's a dumping in element, but it's really drawing out what's the best in them. Who are they? And helping to find tools, resources, atmospheres, programs, environments that help to really draw out their best. Love to hear your thought, especially as a former headmaster of, I'm not sure how many schools you worked with, but as a former headmaster, what did that potentially look like for you when you were leading a school or head of a school? How did you kind of approach your leadership in that way?
Oh, I love your question, man. You're brilliant. That gets right down to it. Um, why did I go from, let me just, the journey here, going from the classroom, which I vowed I would never leave the classroom because I didn't really respect the leadership above me, the admins and such, because they made us teachers sort of like, we didn't get enough love from the administrators. And so to me, when I moved into administration, I thought, well, I need to make sure that I'm never removed from the importance of the classroom, that
Mm-hmm.
the office, the central office, should never be disconnected. And so I would always teach, whether
Mm-hmm.
I was a principal or whether I was a headmaster, I always taught a class
Mm-hmm.
to demonstrate to the teachers, hey, he be one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not that far removed that he doesn't understand our needs. And so to me, to come alongside of
Mm-hmm.
and allowed me to be able to mentor and strengthen and encourage in a way that a lot of administrators don't. And so my administrative journey was more, it's not that I looked at all the negatives, which there were, the distant administrator, pivoting from his central office chair, making and directing edicts from above, That was not my style.
Hmm.
So to me, it was the impact that mattered to me in the classrooms. You empower the teachers to do well in their classroom. The kids become empowered and they make a difference. To me, it's about the kids. It's
Yeah.
always been about that.
That's great to hear you say that. So I'm hearing from you, it wasn't just sit in the office and strategize and think, be a thinking head, be amongst, empower those who are direct influencers, the teachers on to the kids. Now, so with that in mind, I'm like, my mind is running. I've got so many questions for you. W- When you, well, let's take it back. I didn't realize you taught. How long did you teach before you kind of stepped in administration? Do you remember that time period? And what
Yeah.
did you teach?
So, well, I taught biology, I taught the sciences, and I taught math, and I taught a whole variety of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and so it was one of those. I loved the classroom
Hmm.
because then what I did as a science teacher, we just, I did evacuate the lab a couple times, and we did some dangerous, stupid stuff. And looking back, it would not be a good thing to even say over the podcast what I did, but you know, there was, and then I'd take them on field trips, and we get lost, and
Hmm.
we just experiential learning
Uh-huh.
and letting them understand that learning is a lot more has a lot more dimension
Mm.
when they're engaged in it.
Yeah.
And so to me, I sought for every aspect of how to engage, even and you know what I loved too? I loved helping the challenged learner. I
Mm.
was given the opportunity early on in I worked at a private school, the elite of the elite, and they gave me the kids that no one really could teach.
Wow.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And what was it
And
about it that you love so much? Sorry, I'm interrupting you there, but like, what was it
uh,
about these challenge kids?
they were different learners. And that was in the day and era where the divergence of learning and, it wasn't just the cookie cutter, read the book, read the chapter, learn, regurg, sit, get. I had a variety of kids in the dyslexic realm. Some had Tourette's. And this is at a private school.
Hmm.
But that was really my favorite class.
Oh,
I taught AP and I
yeah.
taught my other kids.
Okay.
So and then I had this class of kids and I loved it. It really taught me how to be a better teacher.
Wow.
Anybody can teach the brilliant,
Yeah.
but getting down at the level of the semi-autistic, those that are on the spectrum,
Mm.
learning challenged, I'm not going to
Mhm.
say disabled
Mhm.
anymore, but the learning challenged, loved it.
Now, can you say that there was some in the book that I wrote about wrestling with your calling? I think about I've told you before in some of our past conversations about how Moses, I think, has become my mentor. And like this thought of there's muscle memory that he gained being at the king's palace, muscle memory he gained being as a shepherd, and then that helped him with his leadership. I guess I'm thinking about that in your gut. What muscle memory, bear with my word picture, would you say you gained
Mm-hmm.
from working with this distinct population that some people do dismiss, or private schools may not have the resources to work with those kind of students. They may shuffle them off to the public schools or other schools that do have those resources, but or specialty schools. But I guess I'm curious, what muscle memory would you say you've gained through that journey of working with these kids that now may be affecting the way you do what you do now in terms of the way you engage people? And I'm curious if there's any parallels there that makes
Oh,
sense. Questions.
insightful question, Doc.
Mhm.
Empathy is one of these. I think every teacher, I think, goes into it for the right reason. And if you lose empathy, it becomes more mechanics.
Mm.
And when you see kids struggle,
Mm. Wow.
your heart must be engaged.
Yeah.
And when you engage at the heart level, a kid who comes up to you and says, "Hey, Mr. B, I'm really Uh, I mean, one of the kids that even comes to mind, she was extremely dyslexic and she's a profound doctor now. She
Wow.
wrote me
Wow.
She found me and said, "I'm Betsy Dodd." Probably shouldn't say her name over this, but anyway, you can
Oh my goodness.
eliminate. But my goodness, she had dyslexia. She was anyway. Bottom line is, she's a physician, and those are the things that thank you for the opportunity that I learned. Empathy,
Mm-hmm.
learning how to connect
Mm-hmm.
where these kids needed to be connected. It wasn't cerebral, which they had a misfire, but it was more at the level of the heart.
It's interesting you say that because I think every time you and I have connected at our different places we've met up, that same theme comes up. I can see how you've always coached me in, comrade, you've got to connect at a heart level. You may have not always used that language, but there's something about even just maybe the way I've engaged one of my relationships. And you would always say, don't come speaking, preaching, teaching, come with this empathetic heart. And I'm summarizing past conversations, but I'm listening to you now like, wow, this is where this has possibly come from, and this power of you saying engaging with the heart. um well, take me, that's huge, that's huge. So would you say you had that before this time, or was it circumstantial from this time, that time where you were teaching and you started to see the challenges and the needs, and then it adjusted your style where you may have been cerebral before and then you became much more empathetic later? Or was it something you naturally had that it just got reinforced or drawn out through these experiences? I'm
That's a
curious.
brilliant question, my friend, my brother. Well, so that's like that's a multi-level question. I don't know how to answer that. Did I have it at the beginning? I wanted it. I guess I didn't know I had it. And then I realized that the way that it matters most is to find out what matters most
Mm,
to these kids. And so that really was the heart pursuit. Did I have it? Probably innately.
mhm.
Did I cultivate it as I learned? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, did I answer your question? I don't know if I did or
No,
not.
I mean, again, this is, I'm not looking for perfection. My goal, some of this is when I'm having these interviews and we're talking, is to, that's why I call the book Wrestling with Your Calling, because the facts are is that there are things inside of us, and I'm listening to you and I'm hearing this beauty of the grace of God on you, to whether it was you had it before and now this circumstance has now drawn it out, or it, whatever, it got discovered on the journey. The fact is if that gets identified, sometimes when we get a conceptualized framework of what we bring to the table or what we carry or who we are, we can step into new situations with those same tools and that arsenal, and we bring that person of who we are to the table. For some people, they need that conceptualized to say, because they sometimes curse it. Oh, why am I so soft? Why am I so tender? Why am I so, they almost curse it, or they don't like those parts of themselves. But to me, I'm thinking, wow, it just literally had a light bulb moment saying, well, that's what it is every time we talk, and how you bring me back to this place of it's the heart, Conrad. It's about the heart. It's not about you preaching and intellectually engaging somebody and saying this. There are places for that, but you would always bring me back to the heart of a matter. So I'm actually honoring the beauty of that part of your world and trying to dig out, okay, where did that come from?
Yeah,
um,
it's a great question. I don't know where it comes from. It just gushes. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. So then, okay, so now you're telling me about this beautiful story of the student who's now a doctor. I don't know if you can zoom into that person's journey. There was this challenge of dyslexia, or just, or other students, doesn't matter. This
Right.
challenge. What? When you look back, even if there's present stories, when you look back, what was it that kind of turned on inside of you? What happens in you? Do you find yourself dealing, kind of staying in you're in this cognitive realm initially, and then you start to see the real needs, and then the heart part of the emotional realm turns on? Or is it that you just see that there's a need? And I mean, I'm curious as to the journey that you go on, because I think some teachers literally, they come in, this is my job is to teach, here's my curriculum, I'm expected to do XYZ thing,
Yeah.
come in with an agenda, and they start bulldozing over kids or students, and the students are just, they're just lost, they don't get it, there's no
Yeah.
connection. But then it sounds like for you there's a different kind of approach potentially, and I love to hear how you
Well,
approach.
you're great. I mean, this is an overused quote. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Hmm?
And, that's to me been the real um, to foundation in
Hmm.
anything.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things I can ever say to a person, but you don't really win that opportunity or gain that opportunity until there's a connection
Hmm.
to them.
Hmm.
And I share with you, I mentor a couple young men, a couple of young teenagers. It's like,
Yeah.
well, um, one terribly, horribly abused. I just let him talk
Hmm.
until he opens up, and then we can connect over whether it's his girlfriend or whether it's food or whether
Hmm.
it's sushi or whatever we do. Um, and then the other young man is like, well, you know, um, I let him talk. Let's find a common ground.
Wow.
And them being them and accepting them for who they are is the universal language of love.
Wow.
Being at that place and saying, hmm, there's really identity. And there's this powerful, powerful quote. I'll send you the context of it, but the whole idea of education, and I can see it. I'll have to find the book. I loved it. When I read it, it leapt out at me, is to be known.
Yeah.
And that's not really in the curriculum, is it?
No, it's not.
To be known. To be known. I
Hmm.
never thought about that, but when I read that in this book, um, that's a fundamental cry of every man's heart, every woman's heart,
Yeah.
every young child's heart to be known.
Told you guys you're gonna get some wisdom today. I'm sitting here sort of pondering what you just said. That is phenomenal. Because I think if that were embraced, say teacher trainings, um, just all kinds of places if that was the core of a training session for educators and leaders, I think that would fundamentally change the way we approach people. Because even my dissertation, was interesting, coming from a strengths-based perspective and some of the work I do with StrengthsFinder, this Clifton Strengths Assessment. One of the things relating to what you're talking about was there's this deficiency remediation model that says when the students come
Mm,
to the university, they are deficient. So we need to remediate and fix up and grow them up to a certain standard. Um, as opposed to a strengths-based model that says, oh, they have inherent talents and strengths. And we see them according to who they are, and then we're going to leverage those inherent talents and strengths. Now, big argument there. Do we raise them up to a certain standard and then start them off the journey where they have to spend X amount of time getting up to the standard? Then they finally get to go forward, take them to a junior college, community college, take these remedial classes, blah, blah, blah. Or do we assess their strengths and say,
mhm,
is it about this student that makes him or her function the way that he or she should function? And let's leverage that because they can potentially succeed. But if could we be looking at it wrong that we have our own standards of what we expect them to look like, as opposed to they're already inherently built a certain way? And we start to engage that inherent wiring and work with that. And so I'm connecting that to what you're saying is that
mm.
of being
That's
known
brilliant. Yeah,
is being known. It's like, what
love it.
if, because it sometimes can come across, I don't really know you, but you don't reach the standard, so you can't come into the community. Or I can't work with you until you reach the standard, which it shows elitism and many other things it could. But I'm rabbit trailing a bit. But this thought of what I'm hearing from you, this idea of being known, there's something refreshing in the human that when we are known, it does something in us and it can open our hearts to be receptive if a person is felt to be known. Um, love your thoughts there, just in thinking about um, as you've progressed, just in your professional career, you've gone through this journey. Here you are as a teacher, wanting to know students. You wanted to work with the harder students. Are there any stories that highlight, as kind of I'm in talking and you've been thinking about this, that you talked about that one student? How is this being known journey um, applied in your world? Like, even you can give present stories, but just want to know more about you, want to hear some more of your wisdom. But like how, when you're knowing somebody, what has that done, maybe in your present work, that has helped you to become successful with that person or with whatever in your field? Is that a, let me ask this question before. Is that a theme in your life of going on a journey to know someone first? Because it sounds like it is. And then how does that help you to be effective in some of your present work or other things you've done?
No, right. Great question. Um, yeah, well, again, having transitioned to from education and working with an organization that focuses then on the foster child, those that have been abandoned, abused, and neglected. While I don't get a one-on-one interaction often with these kids, the purpose of it uh, and my role in this organization, I'm able to help people come to the table and
Mm,
connect to, again, this is a worthy organization to help fund for the sake of the kids and their future.
mhm,
I think, to me, again, yeah, the connecting to and providing, yeah, all the facts and figures, but connecting the story of these individuals
mhm,
and helping people just, yeah, this is something worthy. This is something
mhm,
real worthy is to help kids.
mm.
So I'm still in the kid field.
Yeah, which is awesome. Which again, which makes me think about, what this whole podcast, wrestling with your calling, I think there are times with certain people we get caught up in, there are themes in our lives. Our life leads us to focus certain areas. And we find ourselves navigating towards work in that regard. We start doing all kinds of things that lead us in those certain places. And so as I'm listening to you, I'm hearing this wanting to be known, knowing people. It helps you to do the funding that you need to fund. I guess where my thoughts are starting to go is there a personal story in your life that has led you in this direction to be a like an educator? Did you have like a past dynamic that really stirred you to say, maybe in my world I wasn't known, and then now you want to go on a journey of being known, or maybe you were known and it just became a theme for, is there, again, may not be something that I didn't prepare you for it, but it's like my mind is kind of going, it's like, okay, what sparked this knowing journey for you to go on
Hmm.
this journey about the kids? And you're still in this theme of kids as an educator and as, in the nonprofit world you're in. Is there anything there that you have thought about before that connects you?
Huh, good question. No, it wasn't that I had this gaping hole and need, and okay, as I fulfill others, I'm fulfilled. It just happened in that way, but it was more of, um, you know, I've been in ministry. I've been a bivocational pastor. I've been a counselor, a marriage counselor. I've been all these sorts of things. And in all of those experiences, being able to connect and help people get from A to B or A to Z, whatever part of their journey that they need to embark on, it's always been this. I don't know why. It's just a life theme. How can I cause growth?
Oh,
Because that's what Jesus has invested in me. He's caused me to grow.
that's right.
Um, so to me, it's like, okay, Jesus, I messed up.
Hmm.
So you got to help me grow.
Hmm.
And to me, that's just been my constant and continual Father,
Hmm.
how are we going to grow?
That's good.
He has been my shepherd
Right.
all through these changes and these opportunities.
That makes sense. You brought in a big thing here, is that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me beside uh, still waters. He restores my soul. I'm thinking about what you're saying. There's this leadership of the Father, of how he leads us. So I can see your heart now, where I didn't realize the marriage counseling and the pastoral work of your past. I kind of always saw you as an educator, and in your current world, and so to me that even opens up even more themes of how the Lord has placed something on you with this pastoral grace and gifting that you have on your life, and how it's just played out, wanting to see people grow but I can imagine your strategy has always been, I've got to know first, to know this person, to know this journey. Are there times in your world, I guess this leads me to another question. Are there times in your world where you had sensed there was maybe falters that you didn't start with the knowing and you went straight into the preaching, straight into the let me just give you an answer, straight into let me just let you just be a project so I can fix you. And you didn't start with the knowing, and you can see where there was distinct differences between the strategy of
So
okay.
I love your question. So this is the question I have for my brother. Yeah, you're married, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How much did you know about being married to the woman that you're now married to for many years, and you thought you knew everything before, and then all of a sudden, like, whoops.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, being married and being married to my wife, I mean, goodness gracious, God bless me, as I know He has blessed you.
yes, sir.
So in that dialogue, learning the heart journey,
Mhm.
um, and learning how to communicate, and I guess early on, when a part of me, again, I came from a highly dysfunctional, abusive home.
Right.
And so maybe part of the genesis and some of the creation is like there was this place in me. I ain't going to go to that place ever,
Mhm.
but I'm going to dig from a well that never was really dug for me
Mhm.
and dig deep and get the living waters that brings communication and clarity and, a strong sense of not because of a negative. Okay, yeah, a lot of people have had messed up backgrounds.
Sure.
I don't ever use that as my energy. Oh, because of that, I'm this.
Yes, sir.
Um, I use the energy of Christ found me, Christ redeemed me, and then gave me the ability to be a communicator of the heart. And I learned that from a lot from my wife as we worked through a lot of stuff early in our marriage,
Yeah,
how to communicate,
that's
what's
powerful.
meaningful.
That is powerful. Yeah, your world has just kind of opened up to me, like never before, Dr. Rick, because I'm thinking to myself, um, how much we've interacted and the hours we've spent together, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this orchestrated story of the Lord of your life, whatever that past dynamic was, not making it an excuse, not allowing it to be an excuse, but to really say, Lord, you have done something in me that I don't have a foundation for, but there's almost like I'm hearing from you, there's a willingness to let him construct something that, you may have not personally experienced, but letting almost like this blank canvas of a life, you can say, "Do what you want," is kinda what I'm hearing, and part of me is kinda translating that as lordship, the saying, "Whatever you wanna do,"
Mm, that's
and
good, Conrad.
because I see the
Yeah.
fruit of it in our interactions, where it's just one of the most precious things when engaging with you, um and now the beauty of seeing how a life that has learned to submit under the lordship of Jesus, to let your marriage, to let your teaching, to let the circumstances of life lead you, to get the wisdoms and the insight and the understanding that you have. Um, would you say that's true? Would you again? That's my language of lordship of Jesus Christ, but it sounds like that's what I'm hearing from you. You've allowed His direction, lordship, and leadership guide you, right?
Yeah, no, you're right on. You hit it on the right on the head. It is all about that. You
Mhm.
know, what is Christianity? It's at its deepest level, this engagement of this holy being, loving being, incredible lover of your soul, to which maybe because I was so broken and emptied out, it's like, God, I'm desperate for you. Maybe that, we'll just say that was my desperation. It's like, God, I need you. And
Mhm.
I was desperate.
Yeah.
I'm still desperate, still desperate. I
Yeah.
still need him.
That's what I admire about you, sir, because you don't come across as a dogmatic, I am, X age demographic, and I know more than you. You have always been exceptionally humble before me in our interactions and times on other mentees of yours that I know, that exceptionally receptive, a listener, a learner, a always wanting to say sensitive in spirit. especially when of course those that are watching on video, they saw kind of the moment you had earlier. I love those moments. I always say that to you, like it's like the Holy Spirit will either come upon you or tenderize you to his beauty and his compassion. And you'll have this kind of moment. And I've already told you about that.
Ah,
I love
I
that.
hate it. It's like yeah, yeah. I
It's
cried
beautiful.
when Rafiki was lifted up in The Lion King. It's like, I can cry over anything. But anyway, that's the sidebar.
But but this shows the tenderness of what you're talking about. It kind of just reinforces that it's all about that, about learning how to stay intimate and close and near and learn and let him lead and let him be Lord. And there's a place of, like Paul even tells us to say, it's a reasonable service to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice. It's just reasonable. It makes sense to offer
Hmm,
Romans 12. It's
that connects. I love that.
and
Yeah.
so and so I'm kind of your life kind of represents that for me. And so I appreciate all of that about you. So I want to kind of start just again landing the plane. Love for you to come on again and just tell us more another time. But like this thought of a lot of here you are, educator, pastor, counselor, leader, humble man that loves to see people come alive and grow. Well, of course, a lot of this is based on this book, and that's my desire. I want to see people get a framework of wrestling with their calling. And so, if you think about your world, what would you say to those listening about? You've kind of highlighted at it. This seems like this intimacy with Jesus, but what would you say has kind of been, if I don't know how to ask this question the best, what are some moments in your life, if any, or key themes that have said, this has helped me to wrestle with where I'm at right now? It's led
Hmm.
on a journey. These are the things that have kept me, sustained me on this journey, so that now where I'm at, where again, the way I've identified calling is an invitation. God has invited you into his story and says, hey, will you walk with me? Will you participate in my divine nature? Walk with me on the story. Let me use you in various contexts. What has helped you to stay tender to God's invitation, to God's calling?
Mm.
And what places, and I would love to, if you don't mind offering us a couple of insights about that in your world, and then we'll start landing the plane and
Okay. Oh, you are a good interviewer. You're good, man. You get to it. Love it. I think, probably the most pivotal moment of my life is when I was at a place. I was working in a Christian school as a principal. I was bivocational in a church, also ministry, elder, pastoral, um, large Christian school, large church. And I was pulled and tenderized like, God, wanted to be following you. What do you want me to do? And this is a conversation that I had with the Father. And I said, Father, what do you want me to do? It was just one of those exasperating things. And he said this audibly to me, Conrad. And it was one of those things as clear as you and I are speaking. And I've heard the audible voice of God multiple times, but this was just one of those, okay. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't
Mhm,
expect God to answer. I
mhm,
said, God, what do you want me to do? And I wasn't being obnoxious or flippant, but he just said to me in a strong, sweet, fatherly tone, he said, what's in your heart to do?
mm, wow.
I said, Father, that's not fair.
Mm,
You're God. You tell me what to do. I was silent.
mm,
And that has made all the difference in being led of the Lord. And I'm not championing the heart because the heart is, it says in Proverbs 4, I think it's 23, it says, out of the heart flow the springs of life.
sir.
And, that's been a life verse for me because that's been something that God has asked me to, well, what is in your heart to do? Go do it. And I know we got to be very aware, well, the heart is this and the heart is that. Well, the redeemed heart is pumping after Christ.
Oh,
And that's really the thing, we need to get liberated from. And that's when I work with kids, it's like, well, what's in your heart, bro? What do you
mm,
really want to do? I
mhm,
talk at the level of purpose and identity.
mhm,
And what does God do? He wants us to be free at the level of our humanity to be able to accomplish what he has called us to do. I mean, look what you're doing. My
Yeah.
goodness, the impact that you've had on people.
Mm.
Was that just because you're so super brilliant and smart?
Mm.
Yes, that, but you were led of your heart,
That's right.
and look what you've done. And look at
Wow.
the family that you've raised. Look at the kids.
Wow.
My goodness, you're a man of the heart.
Yeah,
You're a
yeah.
man of the mind because you're brilliant, but you have that heart language and you're doing what your heart is leading you to do. And that's the multiplication, even to the exponentiality of the impact of
Mm.
what God can do with people.
Wow. So I'm hearing from you beautifully is that a redeemed heart is a heart tender, and to do what's in the heart from that's kind of this encounter you had, God challenged you to do what's in the heart and having to trust that. Trust those things he maybe, I'm assuming, deposits in your heart, those things. It actually got me thinking. I'm trying to paraphrase what you said, but something just came to mind. It's like, um, again, making the connection. Moses is my mentor. Here's 40 years old. Here he is rising up to want to be a defender, a judge, a ruler of God's people. But then during the burning bush, after he has this moment where he's noticing the burning bush, God tells him to take off his sandals of his shoes because the place is holy ground. God starts to reveal his heart for his people. I've heard their cry, I've heard their groaning. Hey, Moses, I want you to partner with me. And I'm thinking about that. It's like, here's this place where what was in his heart 40 years prior was judge, ruler, defender, deliverer. And that's who God made him to be. He was built, he
Yep.
raised up his life, but then the appropriate timing, it now at a time where it was consistent with God's heart, it's now, all right, Moses, it's time. You're now 80 years old. You've had your moment in the shepherding world. You're now 80 years old. Let's go. Come partner with me. And Moses starts to wrestles with his identity, he wrestles with his faith in God's faithfulness, he wrestles with all these things. My point is, as I'm listening to you, it's like here you are having this audible moment with God. Part of me feels like it's like almost like a burning bush moment where he's like, what I've built inside of you your whole life
Mm.
is something good. Now, it may have been at certain times misapplied because of pride, self-centeredness, whatever, past context, but now the appropriate time is here. And I want you to partner with me because our hearts are consistent. What I've placed in your heart is really of my heart, and we're partnering now. And I want to partner with you through this journey. Um, and so when I'm hearing you say, "Well, do what's in your heart," it's almost like when I think about God's character, He's saying, "Well, I know what I've put there, and I know what's there, and I know who you are, and I've raised you up for a certain point of
Preach.
time in life, and now you're ready." And I'm curious, the timing when He spoke that, you said you got all these things going on. What happened after that? Like here you are saying, "Lord, that's not fair." Just tell me what to do. But like, how did you start to walk that out? I got so much I want to ask you, but it's like I'm curious how much,
Yeah, you're
like, how
good.
did you walk that out? What happened next?
Well, it led us on to a whole nother trajectory where in the ensuing years, I became the head of school, 4 different Christian schools.
Okay.
And it led me in a whole incredible career path. And I was able to impact a lot of lives.
Hmm.
And God gave me the grace, the giftedness to be able to start a school from scratch, to turn another school around, and then shepherd 2 other schools. So that was one of those things. And then he brought us he brought us to Lexington. And it's just been one of those interesting experiences where one thing doesn't work out, but another door opens.
Hmm.
And just the opportunity that God has given me in working with kids and other nonprofits. My dream hasn't died.
Hmm.
It's just been, I get to empower other nonprofits to help others dream.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's really, yeah, the Moses to me, what you, and I love how you do this in your book. Yeah, it was a physical manifestation, but I believe, and you pointed this out, this was in his heart.
Hmm.
God at the right time. this burning is both a physical and a burning passion.
Mm,
And God said, I'm revealing this passion in your heart, Moses.
mhm,
This deliverance, this deliverer,
mhm,
that's really who you are.
mm,
Timing, helping you process, helping you realize that it's not of your strength now. We realize that Moses, yeah, he was imperfect and he did it out of his strength a couple times. And well, okay, those consequences, we all know the story.
sure.
But look what God did with passion.
Wow.
And isn't that the real pursuit of God's heart? We
Mm,
call it, what did Jesus do for his
mm.
passion?
That's good. That's good. Well, bro, thank you so much. Part of me is just wanting you to have the final word because I remember the last time we talked. I think for days I chewed on that word passion, and you brought it up again today. And I guess I want to ask you if, in whatever time you want to take, if you're willing to sort of speak about passion. I wish I could find my notes where I was just scribbling away when you started talking about passion, and that's kind of the one of the core things in us. Is would you mind kind of as whatever comes to mind? It didn't have to be perfect, but just encouraging a listening audience, and I want the encouragement too. I'm gonna be a listener too, but this about what you've learned about passion and the power of passion and what it does. You've highlighted it just now, but how
Gosh,
you flow with that, and then and
you put me on, bro.
I
Well,
did.
I mean, it's just you know, um, I'm lifting up the scripture in Proverbs 4:20-21. My son, my daughter, pay attention to what I say, turn your ear to my words, do not let them out of your sight, keep them within your heart, for their life to those who find them and health to their whole body. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
Mhm,
Passion. What are the passion killers? Are the things that people need to identify. You know, that's the thing that people need to come to grips with is they've got a purpose,
mhm,
find and get it fulfilled and do it. There's a lot of people living purposeless lives and just doing work.
mhm,
We're called, even in our work, even if it's whatever it is, it's about serving the Holy God
mhm.
and the Father and bringing joy to his heart. Um, I don't want to go into I mean, yeah, you cornered me, bro. This is
I
good.
did, but I know you got.
What is it? It's just like God is so good, falling in love with Christ and just saying, God, what is your will? And just saying, God, I don't want to leave until I have this sense of renewal, if it's just even if it's in teaching or if it's in an assembly line, renewal to touch others' lives because of the excellence of Christ in you. And I'm needing that for me,
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah. Ooh, I'm stirred. Those that are watching my video, I'm rocking a little bit. When I get stirred, I start to rock. So I'm listening to your heart, bro, and I'm saying, wow, this is you're highlighting something that um, I think people are hungry for, and I think this is one of the reasons why God has kind of put this on my heart to do this. Hearing people's stories, helping and just partnering with the body of Christ to say, let's talk about this subject, calling what's inside of us, the real stories, the story of God, us being a character in his book, and just to honor him through the journey and to let him be lifted up and exalted. And what it does, I think it potentially will create a culture and a community of people saying, no, this is not my story. This is his story. And this is the way it played out in my part of the story. And if you think about a book writer, an author, there's all these different characters that got developed, whether it's chapter 10, one character gets developed the whole chapter. Chapter 11 is another character. And then they all kind of blend together. And the beauty of how that author writes the story, and God does it in a much more complex way. But there's a beautiful development of our stories. And there's unique purposes and interconnectivity and connection and things that God does. And I didn't realize, even just thinking about you, like you're a man of the heart, and that Proverbs 4, I'm actually going to write a book about it soon, about the matters of the heart, or the foundation. I don't know what I'm going to title it, but just getting all this revelation about the heart and how much we don't talk about the heart, I think, properly. We kind of see it only just as the emotional
Mm,
center, but
I
there's
I
so much
appreciate
there.
that. Amen.
Yeah, there's so much
There's
there
so
that
much there.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, for us, you and I, more to come in terms of talking about that. I didn't realize you had that connection. But all that to say is, I'm just listening to the beauty of how God has established your life and just these highlights and nuggets, and it's just refreshing. Thank you for your wisdom today. Thank you for just
My
sharing.
friend, you're
Yeah.
brilliant. I love what you think about and how you communicate.
Mhm.
You're excellent in all of your styles. And I love it.
Thank you.
Appreciate
So
you.
thank you. So encouraging. Well, those listening, thanks for tuning in today. I'm not sure if I'm going to break this up into two parts or one part. This is, of course, we've been with my friend Dr. Rick Burslem, and am I saying your last name right?
You
Burslem.
did, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Burslem.
that's all right.
And so it's been a great time today, just gleaning from his wisdom. If those of you that don't know that, I mean, when I spend time with his brother, I have to make sure I bring something to write with because he'll start dropping these nuggets of wisdom. I'm like, I've got to write that down. I've got to write it down. Hopefully, those of you that can listen to this over and over again, you'll glean, especially educators that are out there, gleaning from some of his wisdom as an educator, gleaning from other things that you've heard today, others of you that are not educators. But anyways, it's been a great time today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and appreciate you all just supporting wrestling with your calling with Dr. Conrad. And we'll tune in next time. Thank you guys.